Hello, everybody. I just went ahead and finished Dead Island 2. It took me about 38 hours. I was AFK for a little bit, so my total playtime was like 40 hours. So I'm just guessing it's somewhere in the ballpark of like 35 to 40 hours. And I almost 100% the game. I did obviously all the main quests, I did all the side quests. I didn't do all of the lost and found missions, which are essentially like, oh, this person's lost, go find them. But I think I've played enough of the game to give you a solid review of the entire experience and what you guys can expect. I've also talked to a lot of people that are playing with the other characters, so I can give you my take on that as well. But let's get into it. I'll give you the pros, I'll give you the cons, and then I'll give you my final verdict. So the first pro I'll say is that the graphics are actually really good, like extremely solid. This is one of the better looking games I've ever played. It's not like one of the best, but everything is just done very, very well. The animations are clean. The faces are surprisingly good, especially, I played Dead Island 1 and Riptide not too long ago, and I absolutely love Dead Island 1 for what it is. I don't think it's a masterpiece or anything, but I always had a lot of fun with it. Riptide, not so much. And of course, I adore Dying Light 1 and 2. So I am definitely a fan of this type of game. And the faces, though, have never really been very good in any of them. But the faces in Dead Island 2 are surprisingly good. I don't know if it's motion captured, but the lip syncing and everything looks really good, like top notch. Also, just the lighting and the texture work is solid. I was playing the game on a 3080 Ti, and even with all of the high settings on, I was hovering around 100 to 120 FPS consistently with everything on high. And once you mess with a little bit of the settings, you can get a solid 120 or 144 FPS, basically 24/7, unless some crazy stuff is happening. There's tons of explosions and stuff, so the performance is really good. Definitely one of the strong points of the game for me personally, because we've been getting shitty port after shitty port, especially on PC. So it's great to see it actually running as it should on, and I've seen it run on a variety of machines, and the performance is always surprisingly good. So it's very well optimized on PC, which I'm a big fan of, and it looks great for the performance. It's like on the level of like a Resident Evil 4 remake, where it looks really good and it runs really good. No complaints there. Definitely one of the highlights. The combat is also immensely improved over Dead Island 1 and Riptide, and I would say it's even better than Dying Light 1 and 2. That's not saying a lot that it's better than Dying Light 2, but saying it's better than Dying Light 1 is setting a high bar, because Dying Light 1 is probably the best first person melee combat that's ever been put into a video game. Some people say like Mordhau or Chivalry or something like that, but for PvE, like single player experiences, Dying Light 1 has held the cake for a long time for being number one for first person melee, and it's been dethroned now officially. This game is incredible, and it's due to a few things. So there's some unique mechanics in the game where you can dodge or you can block. You can choose one or the other. I just stuck with the dodge like the entire game. And that doesn't sound too unique, but it has a system in place where if you do a perfect dodge or a perfect block right as you're about to get hit, then the enemies will be stunned, and it will open them up for kind of a big, brutal attack. You'll see it in the gameplay here, as this is very early on, so I was just learning all of the mechanics and experimenting with all of them. But um, that and those very cinematic, like big attacks mixed with the flesh system or gore system, whatever they call it, which is the same system we've seen in a few games, Doom Eternal being a main one, which is that as you're attacking enemies, bits of their flesh will come off and you'll see the muscles and the bones and the organs. So it's not exactly a new mechanic, but it is a new mechanic in terms of a game like this. And it fits just so well with games like this, because you're constantly whacking zombies and cutting them, and it's really cool to just hit a dude in the face with. I'm gonna sound like a psychopath talking about it, but there's not really a way to avoid it. But it's really cool to just like hit a dude in the face with like a pipe, and then his jaw comes unhinged and it's just dangling around, you know? Or you hit a dude with a sledgehammer in the ankle and his entire like ankle bone pops out the skin and his ankle folds and he falls on the ground. You know, stuff like that is just, it works so well for this type of game and it lends a visceral feeling to the combat that's unparalleled in games of this genre. And a big thing when you're talking about reviews for this game, because I've seen a lot of them, you know, some people are really harping on the game for its story and stuff. I think the way that I approach a review for a game is I look at the game as an experience and what is the strength of the game? What is the game going out to do? And does it succeed in that? And let me give you a little analogy. If you're playing a Mortal Kombat game, but say the voice acting isn't the best, but the fighting in a Mortal Kombat game is incredible, are you going to really harp on the voice acting if it's bad? Or are you going to be happy that the thing the game actually set out to do and the thing that you're playing the game for, which in this case would be the fighting, are you happy that that is solid? And to me, I think complaining about the story and stuff like that is just super silly because the combat, which is what this game is built around, is phenomenal. This is the strength of the game. And when you're playing it, it's very obvious that this was the core design of the game. The whole game is built around the combat. You know, the flesh system works in conjunction with the combat and it complements it well. The elemental interactions and all of that lends a deeper layer to the combat that's not seen in other games. You've seen me a couple times. You can find, you know, water jugs and spill some water and then hit it with an electricity weapon, or you know, grab a car battery out of a car and throw it into it to electrify it, or you know, you can douse enemies in oil and set them aflame. Stuff like that is just adds an extra layer to the combat that's not really present. And the combat is phenomenal in this game to the point where, like, even after beating it, I still want to play through and just fight zombies. And I think that's a big reason I had such a long playtime is because I wasn't just running past all the zombies because it was so fun to fight all of them. I constantly wanted to fight enemies and it was just really enjoyable. And I think that's the strength of the game, and I think that that's what they were trying to make the core of the game, and they succeeded. Just they hit it the ball out of the park. They hit the zombie head out of the park, you know, or whatever. It's really fun. I'd say the voice acting for all but one character is also quite good. The soundtrack is nothing noticeable, you know, but it's there. There's one song that there's actually two sections where the music starts going hard and you're just slaughtering dozens of zombies, and those parts are very, very fun. So the music stands out in those two sections. But other than that, you know, it's serviceable. It's there. It's pretty good. And I think the level design is actually surprisingly good when you compare it, you know, to Dead Island. Dead Island had a lot of shitty levels. I think anybody that is even a fan of Dead Island will agree to that. So much trekking through the sewers and winding around and getting lost. It was terrible, dude. But this game doesn't have that issue. There's a couple sections in sewers, but luckily they're very brief. And basically all of the locations are very fun to explore. They have many hidden secrets and side quests and chests and little doors that you use fuses, which is a limited resource. You use fuses to unlock them. And you can actually see here, I got a glitch where the quest would not continue. We'll touch on that in the cons, but just wanted to point that out in the gameplay so you can kind of understand what's going on here. And why I had to reload that. I wanted to have that in here so you guys could see that there are some glitches, but we'll get to that in just a second. And overall, I liked all of the levels. There wasn't a single level that I did not like. let's get into the cons. The number one con for me is I don't know the replayability of the game. I do not know how replayable it's going to be. I know I just said the combat's very fun and I want to go back into the combat, but in Dead Island 1 and Riptide, you played through and you picked a character and they had a unique, essentially, action skill. It was very Borderlandsy. They had 3 skill trees that you could go down, which gave different skills. They all specialized in various weapons. And, while they didn't really talk too much or anything like that to change your playthrough that way, it changed it through the skills you were acquiring and your gameplay. This game is the exact opposite. So there's, I believe, 6 characters you can choose from, and they will all play identical. All of them will have the same abilities. The only difference between them is that there are 2 passive abilities that each character gets that's unique to them. And they also have slightly different stats. So one, like the Asian girl, it has high agility, so she's fast, right? But that's really it when it comes to the differences. In terms of actual gameplay, it's the exact same. So the reason why this is, potentially worrisome is because I don't know how much replayability just your character talking and speaking differently actually lends to the game. Because like I said, it's the exact opposite of Dead Island, where Dead Island, your character doesn't talk a lot, but the gameplay changes a lot. In this game, your character never shuts the fuck up, which I like. Some people don't like that, but I actually like it because I think the writing is quite good, and I never found any of the humor to be like particularly cringy, which is always a worry in games like this, And I feel like Borderlands has kind of had that issue lately where it's like, okay, we get it. Like they're like, here's a meme and here's a meme and here's a reference. This is almost all satire instead of just reference bound comedy. And I think that works much better because it's not just relying on you being like, hey, that's a thing. Rick and Morty, I get it. Pickle Rick. It's more just being satirical and making fun of, California culture or LA or influencers or streamers, stuff like that, which I think is a lot funnier. And I just don't know how much replayability your character talking different and saying different lines is going to add to the game. For most people, I suspect it will be a 1 playthrough and done type of game. And the average completion is 15 to 20 hours for the base story, and then like 25 to 30 for all of the side stuff. So I'm definitely on the slow side of that because I was taking my time and I was fighting a lot of zombies and, min-maxing loot and fully exploring. But I do think that that's a big con for the game, is that the replayability is probably not the best for the average person. I also think one of the cons is the glitches. As you saw already, there's several points in the game where things just didn't work like they were supposed to. So in this stream, or in this like gameplay you're seeing from my stream, I had to restart because it wouldn't let me talk to an NPC to continue the quest. I also had the issue just in this gameplay where I was not allowed to, like, my weapon, even though I put the electricity on it, was not electric. So I'm trying to like hit the ground and electrify it and it's not working, which was a little annoying. But then I restarted the game and then it was electric, so it's kind of stuff like that that's can be a little bit annoying. But basically every single glitch that I had, it could be fixed by a quick, close the game and then reopen the game. Just go to the main menu type of thing. So a little bit annoying. I'm sure that'll get patched out though, but nothing like game breaking or awful, just some kind of minor annoyances. But that's about it for all the cons I have. Overall, I think the game is optimized well. The combat certainly carries the experience. I don't think the story is that bad. The reason why I didn't talk about it in the pro or con is because I think it's fine. It's serviceable. Like, is it blowing me away? Absolutely not. Does it seem like they're setting up for future DLC? Absolutely. It's doesn't really have an ending to it, but it's very obvious that they want to continue to support this game down the line and continue the narrative. So while the narrative isn't the best or anything, I don't think it's like a sin against humanity. I'm not going to be having fucking nightmares, waking up in cold sweats, thinking about the story of this game and like shuddering to myself. Um, it's just one of those things that it's there to get you to kill more things. And the killing the things is the highlight of the game, and it's the core of the game, and it's very good. And I didn't go into Dead Island expecting a good story because Dead Island and Dead Island Riptide had fucking awful stories. And this is leagues better than them. And then Dying Light and Dying Light 2, which are very comparable games, those are definitely like, I think the story's quite good in those. But Dead Island has never had a good story, so I don't expect a good story going in. Overall, I think it's a very solid experience. Maybe not if you're on PC and you're one of those Steam, pony fanboys that refuse to get games anywhere else. It is an Epic Game Store exclusive, but I don't give a fuck about that. If a game is good, I don't care if I need to download. I play Tarkov, dude. I'll download a separate launcher just for one fucking game. I don't care if the game is good. So overall, I think it's highly enjoyable. I do think it's worth your money as long as you're not one of those people that needs like 100 hours to actually buy a game. And I would give it a solid 9 out of 10, actually. I think this game is amazing. It's, for what it's set out to do, it excels at it. And the most important thing to me, it does it better than every other game in the genre. That's what really makes a 9 out of 10 for me, because a 5 is average for me, 6 above average, 7's good, 8 is great, 9 is amazing, and 10 is like a masterpiece, as close to perfection as possible. It's not quite masterpiece, but it does the first-person melee combat better than any other game. And as a result, I really enjoy my time with it. I'm excited to see how the other characters play and how their dialogue and voice acting changes the experience, to see if it actually changes it in a meaningful way. But I really enjoyed my time. I'm really excited for them to add future content. And while the story and stuff isn't good, I wasn't playing the game for that, and I don't think it's that important. I mean, just look at this dude. The dude's on me. He's got a jaw hanging down. He's got his eyeball popping out. It's fucking awesome, dude. It's so much fun. Highly recommend it. Anyway, that'll do it for me. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Take care. I'll see all of you in the next video or stream Rooney. Bye-bye.